part of our life, and BFSI comes as a very important segment where it is very critical to look at for implementation of AI. There are a lot of advantages. Before we start the discussion with the members of the panel, it is also imperative for us to understand what is AI, though not at a basic level everybody is aware, but then how it is going to transform when we look at implementation of AI, particularly in BFSI segment. We think that definitely there is a possibility of enhancement in the efficiency if we implement the AI. We are also aware that AI can work wonders in terms of risk management. We also look at AI, more importantly, we have seen the discussion in the earlier panel regarding the cyber threats, which we have seen across the globe and more importantly in our country in the last few years, how people have lost money. Though all the checks and balances are available and enough amount of inputs are given for understanding or enhancing the knowledge when they are operating their bank accounts using technology, using mobile, using internet banking. But still we have seen many of the people becoming prey to this kind of cyber security threats. And how do we see AI working at least in a way to control these kind of measures, in spite of the fact that the knowledge enhancement or even awareness is being created with respect to the users. And then finally, how predictive analytics can be drawn by using the AI. These are at the basic level. Now we have a wonderful panel here for discussing these areas. We have Mr. Subram Natarajan, Director of Customer Engineering and Field CTO at Google Cloud. And we have Mr. Hemant Verma, CGM, CIO and CTO at Punjab National Bank. And we have Mr. Pradeep Srivastava, Chief Technology Officer from Bank of Maharashtra. Now I would like to start with Mr. Subram Natarajan. There are a lot of drivers what we look at AI, and how do we see AI evolving with those kind of drivers for implementation in BFSI segment?
So first of all, good afternoon everyone. Thanks for having me here. It's indeed a great pleasure to be with you all today. And the question on how AI is driving different use cases in financial services industry is mainly driven from how the business impact is felt. Whether it is associated with corporate banking or cards or any lines of businesses, there is always a need of how we create differentiated experience with our customers, as well as how do you manage the top and bottom lines. It is in these two areas we find that AI to be driving a lot of use cases and therefore, driving the adoption. We are finding over the past, I would say, in the past 2 years, there has been a huge hype around generative AI in general. But truth be told, AI as a technology has been existing for a long time. So with generative AI, the acceleration of an adoption of generative AI across the different use cases, across the different segments, business verticals, etc., has accelerated dramatically. And the main reason is there is an here and now benefits that people are beginning to feel perceptibly, both in terms of differentiated experience as well as the bottom line. We are seeing, as I see, there are three buckets of, I would say, classes of problems that people are trying to adopt this. One is, as I was mentioning earlier, a differentiated experience. How many of you use Google search today? I'm pretty sure a lot of you do. The way that we interact with search has changed quite differently. In this past year alone, you no longer start typing the search phrases. You start talking to it. Similarly, the experience of how you do banking operations have also changed dramatically. It's no longer just a bot. It's also almost like a human-like experience. The other class of problem is understanding the complex data that may be there across the organization. This includes just trying to find facts from multitudes of data, contracts, etc. And the last but not least, creating new contents, creating reports, creating intelligent documentation based off the knowledge that you have. These three classes drives the adoption of AI in FSI in general.
very important factor is that please remember data is a very, very strong asset. Now, everywhere, if you look at where the BFSI segment or otherwise, we have the data enormously available. But the problem lies if the data is not consistent or it is not credible, then the AI outcomes will also create a lot of problem. So if you're an organization, if you're an institution, it is your responsibility to see that at least before implementing the AI models, you create a data consistency and credibility. And before allowing the AI to draw its own inference, learn in the process to give the outcomes to you. Well said, Mr. Subram, regarding the what you call drivers of AI. Now, we were also discussing about the awareness, even in the earlier panel, when we have seen in the cyber security, it is very important for the awareness at the user level as to what he is undertaking. Even when the AI model is implemented by an organization, which would be of immense use for the user at the customer usage level, what amount of knowledge he is having that the outcomes are useful to him or when he is undertaking a transaction. Now, I would like to hear from Hemant how important it is to create the awareness among the users, not only with respect to digitalization, even with respect to the AI when the organizations undergo implementation.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for having me here. Like in earlier session, panelists were talking about cyber security risk and cyber awareness among user. Same kind of awareness, the AI is also being used in the cyber frauds and all. So users are very much should be aware, and it is banking industry responsibility for a financial literacy, how they can be victims of frauds if they don't know AI, what can be the consequences, and how AI can be used to fraud them with them. So for that, continuous awareness campaigns are required. We are sending SMS, mails, camps are happening, branches are being told to guide the users what kind of things are happening around the world. You should not share your data. How to use mobile, your hygiene is required of mobile uses and all. This kind of literacy is very much required to contain AI-based frauds. And what kind of data to be shared with the anyone, even with the financial institution, the user must be aware of it. We casually share our data with everyone. Again, I'm repeating last panel, they're saying the same data is being used everywhere. Even fraud accounts are being opened using same data, mule accounts and all, and money is routing across the world. So I will not say people are getting aware now, and technology is also getting advanced. Government, regulator, banks are taking a lot of steps in this regard. Awareness is increasing now. The number of reported fraud, which they were talking about, million or so, we are seeing that number of millions frauds are reported. I will be happy awareness is also being increased. That is why frauds are being reported. Otherwise, they are going under notice and people are not knowing they are frauded. So I hope now I4C or NPCI and RBI Innovation Hub all are working together with banks to make a awareness and secured ecosystem so we can stop this kind of frauds, AI based and all, that is required, sir.
Right. In fact, if you look at the implementation of AI, one area is cyber threats, what currently are happening. RBI is also very clearly aware, and I have seen very recently RBI was interacting with all the CISOs of the banks to see how we can develop a model which on its own learns with respect to what kind of modus operandi the cyber threat perpetrators are undertaking, and how the model learns itself and controls that. That is one area. But the other important area is the customer, the organization itself engages with the customers through chatbot or even customer relationship management. When you talk to the call center at the bank level or organization level, the way you're interacting and the way the call center is engaging you by using the AI, a lot of information is captured during the course of that interaction. And the same data is used by the AI to suggest either at the product level or service level or other areas. So it is very important for the customer at one area, cyber threats which are happening, and the learning is very important, understanding is very important. At the same time, when you're engaging with the organization, how we are going to interact with them and how AI is using in terms of providing you the kind of products and services. Now, I would like to request Mr. Pradeep. He comes with a lot of global expertise and experience. And what is the global experience in terms of AI at this as on today? And how do we take it forward for implementation in the BFSI segment in our country? Mr. Pradeep.
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thanks for inviting me in a wonderful conference. And I'm extremely honored for that one. Coming back to the question, I just give you some background about myself. I have around 3 decades of experience, mostly on the global organization. And rightly, Mallikarjuna sir said, I do have experience in the global way as well. Probably the AI which we are dealing in the global way, and in the, right now I'm working in the Bank of Maharashtra. So how we are dealing in the public sector bank, that is also I can probably share some instances around that one. So if we talk typically about the banking organization or banking industry, then we do have the customer journey. And this customer journey is something like the customer onboarding and screening. And then we do have like KYC and related stuff. Then we do have the fraud. And then probably we need to understand more from the, like Mallikarjuna sir said, in terms of the call center and AI, which is going to be used in the call center. And finally, the portfolio of that particular customer. So I will touch base upon the first few things. So in terms of the customer onboarding, which is prima facie, every bank or every financial institution want to have more and more customers. So that is the area where actually in terms of the global way, what we were doing. So there is first of all the customer screening. So the customer screening is the one part where we identify whether the customer is a legitimate customer, there is no fraud associated with this customer, and the global way the data is already available. So if you talk about the Thomson Reuters, a lot of other companies, those are providing the data on the global basis. We can easily access whether this customer is legitimate, whether this customer hasn't done the fraud in any other country, and this is the green customer, and we can onboard. Now, the second aspect is the payment screening. Payment is always a bread and butter for any financial institution. So how the payment which are going to process, whether this payment is also not a fraudulent payment, and this is something which organization can look very seriously. So the payment screening, and again, the challenge is payment is, as you know, is going on the fraction of second. It is almost real time or near real time payment which we are doing. Batch is also which is running on the tremendous way. So to screen the customer and particular that payment on the real time is always a challenge. So how we are doing and what kind of the AI has been implemented to that one, that is also, and how quickly it give the response to you so that the hold can be given to that particular customer. Or even for the customer onboarding or screening, we can immediately on real-time basis, we can check whether this customer is legitimate or not, whether we should onboard it or not, whether his or her payment need to be processed or not. And these kind of the stuff is always challenging, and AI has given the tremendous work on that one. I can share one instance of something which I have done in the various global banks so far. Say for example, for screening, the AI engine, what does, it gives the alerts. And there is mostly false positive alerts are there. Because regulator itself want that you have to generate the alert, and they want to analyze this alert, whether this is a true alert or this is a false positive alert. And manual basis when we are doing, and we were having around thousands of employees across the globe, then this voluminous amount of alert is being generated, and manually we are wasting so many hours on that one. Forget about hours, even so many days for that one. So once we implemented AI and the tool and the product was behind that one, then the tremendous result which we received. So around 94 to 95% we suppress the false positive alert. So it is only giving the true alert. Like sir was talking about and my colleagues was talking about in terms of the model, how the model is working, how we train the model, how we can immediately keep on working the model so that it should be efficient model, and then it gives result. Now the next leg is the fraud. So fraud is also which is everyone talk about, and I'm sure you must be knowing fraud is the one of the biggest industry in the world. The kind of the revenue which is being generated by any other industry, fraud is the one of the topmost industry as on today. And it's probably not saying the good thing, but in India, we are leading on that one. The data is showing in such a way. So kind of the, like my colleague, Mr. Hemant has talked about the mule account and the kind of the transaction which is happening, that is a threat for each and every one. So fraud is the another area where we have to look into very seriously. AI has also given a wonderful role on the fraud itself. So like I talk about the onboarding, I talk about the screening, which is a customer and payment. Fraud can be also suppressed by doing all sort of the things. And even once the fraud happens, what is the post-mortem effect for that one? How AI can immediately dig it out and can stop the payment as well as the customer. That is the other things which we can deal with the fraud. I have in terms of the call center way. So call center also, there are many tools, many stuff has been as on today where we can work upon the call center. I just take a stop over here because I will be talking too much on that one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nadeem. Mr. Subram, what I was looking at is, what is the motivation for the organizations to go for implementing the BFSI? Can we look at quantifiable benefits like revenue enhancement, performance enhancement, or even online model dynamic updation in terms of risk management? Can you throw some light on that?
So the motivations for any organization to adopt technologies like generative AI is mainly driven out of the business outcome and differentiated experiences, right? So there's a tangible business outcome that's there, and that's what we all go towards. But in that process, the intervention also kind of brings in a whole lot of challenges. In this particular case, when we talk about implementing generative AI, in the same breath, we talk about responsible AI. And the responsible AI brings in, if I were to really open the question and ask, what any of you mean by responsible AI, chances are that there is not one definition. Because it is so very different from how you are applying which technology to which context, and that is culturally sensitive as well. And therefore, it is important for all of us to understand the guardrails that the organization itself is imposing on to ensure that various governance or self-governance regulated principles are applied in any technology, including that of generative AI. See, with any nascent technology, we will always have what I call as the frictions. Earlier, probably 2-3 years ago, all of you would have heard about how there was hallucinations were rampant, poisoning data was very rampant, and false positives, fake videos. There is plenty of them. And technology itself evolved to a large degree to bring those things down, allowing organizations to adopt in a much more effective way towards their business pursuit. And that's precisely what companies like Google are doing, really trying to figure out how to change the technology itself as it evolves. So if you were to ask me what do I mean by responsible AI, it is all about bringing the fairness, accountability, transparency, and explainability. All of these principles in every definitions of use cases, deployments that we do for ourselves as well as to customers. Keep in mind that a company like Google has a lot of technologies, right? Whether it is Gmail, YouTube, Play, there's plenty of products. In all of these developments themselves, we apply these principles of what we call as FEAT, fairness, equality, or explainability, accountability, and transparency. And then there are a bunch of process that we follow to ensure this template applies in every deployments. And that's precisely what even banks go through in making sure whenever they deploy a technology such as generative AI, all of these can be applied to achieve a very responsible business outcome that is mutually beneficial both for the public as well as for the bank, right? And then, of course, the principles around how you deploy, how you measure the effectiveness of the technology is measured in terms of the business outcome itself.
See, in the recent times, we have seen a couple of incidents, particularly in AI, when implementation is required. We have been probably hearing from very top-level companies saying that a lot of investment is required, infrastructure is very, very important, and unless you have a very high processors, probably you will not be able to achieve that. Now, we have seen in the last week when China has come into the market with DeepSeek, suddenly everybody realized that that kind of investment is not required. And we have seen the market crash in terms of those companies, though it is not a relevant part for us for our discussion, but the learning very important is that it's no longer a taboo that if you want to implement AI, large investment is required. That is one part. Second, we have also seen only yesterday, Home Minister of India giving a statement that in order to control the cyber security, we would like to work very effectively through the AI. Now, these two correlating the statement, I would like to come to Mr. Hemant and ask how important it is for us to look at for infrastructure investment and the organizations currently who are there who wish to implement AI, do we have the wherewithal to look at investing in the infrastructure?
So bank like PNB where data 130 year of legacy and data we have in 300 plus TB kind of data. So definitely churning is required. And for AI models, definitely you require faster machine, faster CPUs. But having said that, for better quality AI, you need a better data. Quality of data is required. So because if garbage in, garbage out will be there. So data quality is an essential part. Once you have good data with you, then what kind of use cases you are using based on that, you have to have machines which are having faster processing capabilities. And people are rushing for GPU and all, but sidely people are thinking for virtualize the GPU also. So once you are thinking about virtualize the GPU and what level you are going to virtualize, that means you can use other machines, other CPUs also for doing the same job. So it depends what kind of data, how much quantity of data you're having. Based on that, the person can decide the architecture or infra to invest in. That is our investment part, sir.
When we look at implementing AI across the BFSI segment, one important factor what we have to keep it in mind is the rules of the game. Rules of the game are defined by the regulator who controls these organizations. And the regulatory controls or guidelines, they have been in existence. It is not that they have developed only as on today, it has come over a period of time. Now, when we want to implement AI model in an organization, the AI model has to adopt the regulations which are prevalent as on today and take it forward in future to adopt itself whenever the new regulations come. I would like to request Pradeep to throw some light on how we look at AI to adopt the regulatory perspective which is there as on today, and how do we look at to implement or adopt in future as well.
Okay, great question. So yeah, definitely, especially the banking organization and banking industry, when they want to adopt the AI and in terms of how the regulation is going to be implemented across the organization, the questions come, so how we are going to actually implement. There are the very different and various use cases for that one. So regulatory point of view, definitely the regulator want system should be stable. Customers should be safe, and our data and organization should be also safe. So in terms of that one, what kind of the regulator which envisages the controls, which is one part, and on top of that, what organization or industry itself thinks about that one. So like our colleague Mr. Hemant said that they do have a voluminous amount of data, and always if data is not clean, the quality is not there, it garbage in, garbage out. And believe me, this is the global problem. We do have the data which is not clean everywhere, because at the end of the day, the data is being punching or inputting by the branch people and branch staff itself. So at the end of the day, what the kind of the data which we are getting, it's not always clean. And this is not a one bank problem, two bank problem, it's a global problem. So how we can work upon that, how we can check upon that, and how we can implement that one. So my view, something like that, we can multifold approach for that one. One is in terms of the definitely the data quality is there. The second thing, what kind of the transaction which we are having. So one transaction which we are having the batch, another one is which we are having the real-time transaction. Mostly payments and all these are the real-time transaction. Even the customer onboarding and everything is all real-time, because nowadays it's not a monotonous bank or branch only which is onboarding customer. It's on the everything on the real-time, and we can onboard the customer on the real-time online as well. So that is also a challenge to how to deal that one. So I can talk about the Bank of Maharashtra. We have implemented these kind of the controls in terms of the payment perspective, and even prior to payment and post the payment, what controls are there in terms of the fraud, what controls which we are managing in terms of any risk which we are perceiving, and how we are going to suppress that risk. So like Mallikarjuna sir said, in terms of the regulator, so regulator has already given a lot many controls, and that is we are implemented in our different system as well. But on top of that, my view something like that, on top of that, what we can think about from the organization security and safety perspective, that is something we also look into that. That's my summation.
We've been discussing about the advantages of AI and how it can transform the relationship with the customer, how the BFSI segment can engage with them, and also the internal processes, how it can bring the efficiency and other things. But there are challenges and even vulnerabilities as well. How do we look at them? Suppose we prepare an AI model, and if the cyber threat perpetrators are able to crack on that, and they're able to inject something, and the model starts taking decisions, and how do we control that? See, long back when the Satyam fiasco has happened, and it failed, I remember Raju giving a statement that I suddenly realized that I'm running a tiger and I lost control of it. So when we want to look at AI and its vulnerabilities or the limitations by way of challenges, do we realize and can we keep full control on that? I would like to listen from Sukhram.
It's an excellent question. So first, let's step back and understand the typical challenges that you face. Right? In every technology that we want to implement, particularly in the FSI sector, we always look for, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? It's sort of a checklist. With generative AI, especially when you apply the responsible AI as a framework, there is no checklist. Don't even try that, because we have tried it. Because every use case is very different, and every situation that you apply with the right technology is very different. So to have a very generic context and a checklist may give us comfort, but it may not be very effective at all in terms of achieving the end output. The second challenge that we have is the kind of principles, AI principles that we are going with are far difficult to measure. How do I measure the ethical boundaries that you are trying to implement the AI use cases for? How do you measure fairness? How do you measure the explainability effectively? So we do have mechanisms that are somewhat indirect in nature. So I'll kind of mention about 3 things which will probably explain you how we are measuring this. First is, with every feature product that we deploy or implement, we try to assess whether it is falling within the fairness guidelines, explainable guidelines, trust guidelines, etc. We understand the risks associated with it. What kind of risks could be there? Harm, societal, or even it could be associated with, not only the security, but also the privacy aspect of it. The ability to understand the risk and follow up with the mitigations is the next step that we go with. If that is not tenable, we drop it. I'll give you one example. Everyone knows that Google does not do facial recognition in any of the product. That's because when we have this technology, we have been one of the pioneers of this. When we had this technology, we understood what could happen when you start utilizing this for surveillance, what kind of harm it could cause for the society, and therefore we decided to drop this as a technology. The risk was assessed, mitigation was untenable, we dropped it. And then there could be also things associated with how you are going to make sure that the implementations are happening from these mitigations. So those are the steps that we follow. How do we measure it? When we are implementing the mitigation steps, there are issues coming out of it as part of the deployment. We measure them. That's one. Second, the implicit trust level that the end user is going to get by means of using this technology, that can be measured using CSAT or other means. Third, we also do offline surveys of specific technology that we implement to understand the comfort that people are feeling with respect to utilization of technology. These three are indirect ways to measure the effectiveness of generative AI, responsible AI implementations in generative AI use cases. So even with all of this, we will always find corner cases, which is where the self-governance, corporate governance come into play along with the regulatory requirements to specify guidelines as to what can be used, what should not be used, how models should regulate themselves. And these technology always gives a range of what we call as temperature control. Do you want to really control it too high so that you may compromise on accuracy, but you are 100% sure that it's meeting the guidelines of set by the governance principles or the regulatory authorities? Or you may want to let it loose and actually have a wider scope of generative AI to operate with. That may result in some amount of what I call as the responsible AI not falling within the control, but it may give you the right kind of relevant answer. So the answer to deployment of any of these technology lie in kind of extremes, and technology is there to help you. We follow these guidelines in many of our own development and deployments, and that we bring it to enterprises as well, right? So these challenges are known, methods of attacking or addressing some of these challenges are known, and that's what we follow.
Good, wonderful perspective. And it has been a really good discussion among the panel members. The intention is not to provide a solution to the AI here while we are discussing, but to trigger the minds of the people for a better understanding of the benefits as well as the challenges what we encounter. When we say responsible AI, it covers everything. Even there are some ethical issues which may crop up during the course of implementation. Organizations need to be very clearly aware when they are implementing the system. Because everybody, including the user and the employees, will take it granted that the organization has taken care of everything. If we don't look at those things, it would even may create disaster, because the machine learns itself during the course of its implementation, and until it gets maturity, it's very difficult whether the model will work effectively or not. So on that note, while I am concluding the discussion part here, I would like to throw open for the public, if they have any participants, if they have any questions to raise to the panel members. Few minutes we can spend for that.
I just want to share something.
Yeah, please.
As you say that the organization has to let them know how does it work. In China, they had come up with one notification where everybody had this habit of having their social media with this sign, and they said that they can see your palm and also can predict what will happen to you. So whenever you do this sign, do like this. So such notification at a country level also, how you use your social media was also made as an awareness.
Very good.
Just sharing.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you so much for a wonderful discussion. My question would be, when we are talking about responsible AI, although I'm not a student of fintech, but I'm just trying to understand things. from the customer's perspective, when we are using the past data to predict the future uses of customer, and then you are bringing in that, this is the possible, I would say that a suggestion or a solution, how far we are ethical when we are, trying to force the customer to look at that option, and without a customer actually doing a research, assuming that whatever is coming in front of me is the best option that I have, because they are not trained in that manner. In that context, how does the responsible AI framework work? I hope my question is clear.
Yeah, it's clear. You'd like to take it?
Yeah, and again, an interesting question. There was Mr. Mallikarjuna was alluding to the importance of data. I don't know how many of you know the early days of AI. If you were to prompt generative AI, show me a clock that that is blue in color and it shows time 3:45, you will always get a clock that is at 10:10. That's because the data that was used to train the different models was using that classic 10:10 kind of clock image. And therefore, the ability for us to detect such kind of biases or wrong answers are very, very large now, with the ability to kind of go beyond the scope of just looking at the problem, but a wider problem in the adjacent topics as well. If you are asking a question on a specific topic, to be able to relate to additional topics and say, yeah, I think there is no ethical violation here. We are not segregating a particular class of people or a particular subject, etc. To be able to say, with a level of confidence is much higher now. The second aspect is we always believe in human in the middle. Right? Whenever you are taking some critical decisions about whether it is a business decision or even as simple as granting a loan, there is always a human in the middle to really fact check whether it is doing, the models are doing what it's supposed to be doing. Third, every single AI-based decisions will have explainability, transparency built in as part of the decision. What data did it use? How did it arrive at the decision? To be able to explain that in a manner that is acceptable for us is a critical component of any solution deployment. So some of these guardrails are put in the system, and this is going to continue to evolve before even it gets to the end customer. So just wanted to kind of make that point.
Maybe to add something, you're talking from the enterprise perspective, wherein you are bringing in defining a model. Well, I am taking one more step forward and asking, some of the solutions that are coming in is coming free of cost because you wanted to, take the customers, you want to onboard the customers, and then you are trying to give them a kind of solution. Now, while we are doing this, my question I'm thinking aloud, how ethical are we in, like, for instance, there's a saying that in Japan, by looking at the female who is looking at the iris, the pupil of the woman, whether she's getting attracted, they increase the price. The similar data statistics is used. The moment you start searching for a flight, and then the number of times that you look at the same flight from the same place, within 2 hours the price goes up. So I'm coming from that perspective. And how can that be, when we are talking about responsible AI, can we model this into the solution? Because ultimately you are looking at the customer satisfaction. When I see the prices of the airlines which is going up because I'm looking at twice, thrice, so how responsible are we as an enterprise towards the customer who is willing to get onboarded to a flight? So
Yeah, please.
I think this is a much wider discussion than just responsible AI. Because what you are saying is that, look, if I am in front of a camera, for the system, any software to use any of the data associated with me, I should control. That's a different topic altogether. It's got nothing to do with responsible AI. If you don't give that permission, either using the DPDP framework or any other in Europe or anywhere else, then it's moot point. But if having volunteered, saying that, yeah, I am aware that my data is going to be used, my facial expressions are going to be used, I'm going to be heard, then you cannot, when we have given up that level of privacy, then you cannot really expect the systems not to use that, right? Because these days in the age of capitalism, such kind of cohort-based data will be used to do additional marketing. That's my view.
If I have understood another point, are you looking at that product pricing and other things we are taking advantage of that by engaging with them? Was that the point?
Yes.
At your level?
Yes.
No, if that is the point, the question of regulation comes into picture.
Okay.
I'll give 2 examples. Very recently in Kumbh Mela, the price of airlines, how it has gone up. Then immediately ministry has intervened and saying that you can't do that. You'll have to control that. So there is a control required. The regulator takes place that. Another example I'll give you. If in a traffic signal, suddenly the signal goes away, doesn't work, wonderful, the people who are all going there in the direction are all learned, experienced, but chaos are created. Regulation is required. So responsible AI, while developing the model, it is very important, but the outcomes, if somebody is controlling that, there is a regulator who takes care of that. So it is both combination of responsible AI with the regulatory control, which we have discussed already. In the regulatory perspective as well, the AI has to adopt itself. And if those two are taken care together, I don't think these kind of situations will arise. But remember, it is a learning process. And such exploitations may happen in the beginning, but when the model gets maturity, they are all taken care. Now with this, I think we are not on time. We'll conclude. Thank you so much.
It's a wonderful session. I only wish we could give you more time, sir. But as I said, we are running a very watertight compartment today. Thank you very much, distinguished delegates and the wonderful participants on stage. May I request Rao, sir, to hand over mementos to his fellow panelists, please. Mr. Subham Natarajan, thank you very much for being here, sir. Subram, sir, thank you. Thank you. Verma, sir, thank you very much, sir, for being here with us today. Thank you for your wonderful contribution. And Mr. Srivastava, thank you, sir. Thank you. And may I call upon Nasiba on stage, please? Nasiba, Director IBEX, who has done some instrumental work in seeing the shape of this event today. Nasiba will hand over a small memento to Rao, sir. Thank you, Nasiba, and thank you, sir. Thank you. Can we have a group photo also, please?